Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast, and I'm going to have someone today again who I looked up a lot. I used to follow him, and I still do sometimes, but of course I changed my gears and changed my path. But Mark Podolsky is a big name in the land investing world. He owns this domain and the company, the landgeek.com. A lot of people know about it. He also has a podcast, and he's an amazing person because I did follow him. I had reached out to him via email when I got started, and he did respond back to me right away. So I was pretty impressed. So I am looking forward to learn more about how Mark got started and why land investing. So welcome, Mark.
Alpesh, thank you so much for having me. I got to tell you, my fragile ego loves the accolades. So thank you.
No, you deserved it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Mark, tell us something funny or interesting about yourself.
Something funny about me is I know magic.
Oh, really?
I can do magic. So I'd have to grab something to show you, but trust me.
Yeah. So the magic you do with land?
The magic I do with land. Yeah. So that's kind of funny about me. And I'm a long-term meditator.
Oh, okay.
So
meditation. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How did you get started with meditation? Because I do yoga, right? And then of course meditation is one part of yoga. And I've been trying to get to, meditating for more than 5 minutes. It's very difficult. So like, how long have you been doing meditation, and what got you started?
I started with the Headspace app.
Oh, yes. That's what I did.
Yeah. And now I'm on the Waking Up app. And, so I just try to meditate at least 20 minutes a day and, just be aware of my thoughts.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And how did you get started in real estate?
So Alpesh, if we rewind the tape about 21 years, I was a miserable, micromanaged, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing with mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups.
Oh, wow. That time was big M&A activity, if I remember. Because
it was big. And I
had barely moved to US 21 years ago. So I remember the .com and M&A stuff. Wow.
Yeah. And I hated it, Alpesh. So it got so bad for me, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues, anticipating Monday coming around.
Right.
I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy. And he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping them online, and he's making a 300% return on his investment.
Wow. And that was 21 years ago. He was able to do it online?
21 years ago.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at companies all day long. And a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average company's 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So I don't believe him. So I go to New Mexico with him. I got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. 300%. It worked.
Nice.
So I took all that money and went to another auction where I live in Arizona. And again, it's 2000. There's no one in the room, and I'm buying up lots and acreage for nothing. And it took about 6 months to sell all that property, and I made over 90 grand cash. So I go to my wife, who's pregnant. I say, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor.
Land flipper.
Land flipper. She's like,
that's funny.
And she's like, absolutely not.
Right.
So I said, okay. So it took about 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. And I've been doing it full time ever since. And I love it.
That's amazing. So almost 20 plus years in land. Wow. And that's the only thing you have done most of the time? Or do you also do buy and hold, rental or anything, or just mostly land?
I'm an inch wide and a mile deep. I flipped one house in 2006. I made 100 grand. And when I factored in my time, I broke even.
Yeah. The time is it. I always talk about, because as an investor, we are hooked to look at ROI, right? Return on investment, return. And I tell my friends and all these investors, did you ever look at ROT, return on time? Because it's so much important. My time is more valuable than just my investment, right? So that's great. So, but why did you choose land over buy and hold real estate or notes or anything?
Right. So I think it's the best passive income model. So it's a one-time sale. I get recurring income every single month, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents, nothing physical to maintain, nothing physical to protect. It lasts forever. It's a generational asset. Plus, because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this owner's real estate legislation. So as long as I can create enough land notes where my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses, I'm working because I want to, not because I have to.
Okay. So basically, when you flip the land, you are actually carrying the note and you are becoming a bank pretty much, right?
Exactly.
So you are getting recurring revenue without doing anything after that.
Exactly. So Alpesh, where do you live?
San Francisco Bay Area.
San Francisco. So let's just pretend that you own 10 acres of raw land in Texas and you owe $200 in back taxes, right? So you're advertising two important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in California, the property's in Texas. And number two, you're financially distressed in some weird way because when we don't pay for things like taxes, we don't value them in the same way. As a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Alpesh, you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose this property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your property for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale, divide by 4, and then send you an offer. So let's just say, right. So it's the lowest comp's 10 grand. I'm going to send you an offer for $2,500. For you, you accept it because 2,500 is better than nothing. Now in the marketplace, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, all I've got to do is a little bit of due diligence, confirm you still own the property, back taxes are only $200 or less, make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances, and all this can be outsourced to my team in the Philippines. They're connected to an American title company. If it's 5,000 or more, I'll close traditionally with a title company. And then if everything checks out, I'm now going to sell this property 30 days or less. I'm going to make a cash flow just like a rental home without any of the headaches. So Alpesh, I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Are there investors?
Nope.
Are there developers?
No, you didn't think you'd have your own podcast and get quizzed.
Yeah, that's true.
You're like, Mark, I'm the host.
Yeah, correct.
All right, I'll give you one more guess.
One more guess. Your students?
No, the neighbors. The neighbors.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy. Protect your views. Know your neighbor.
Oh, wow.
So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyer's list. My buyer's list passes, I'll go to a little website you may have never heard of called Craigslist, 10th most traffic website in the United States.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. I'll go to Meta or Facebook, buy sell groups and in the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, landfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land.
Right.
But the way that I sell it is where the magic happens. So I'll, for 10 acres, put $2,500 down and you can go and control this property. And then I make it a car payment. Let's say $429 a month at 8% interest over the next 84 months. And so I get my money out on the down. I might go 6 to 10 months out. Then I'm getting $429 a month, 8% interest over the next 84 months. No renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And it's a very simple model. Is that not the best passive income model, Alpesh?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So why would, of course, neighbors want to buy this property, but then why would they want to just keep it for a long time? Do they want to build something or they just don't want anyone besides themselves?
Well, I don't know. I mean, oftentimes, I don't really ask them why they're buying it. I'm just glad they're buying it. Yeah. But if I had to guess, I would say that it's a long-term investment for them. Ted Turner's got that great quote.
Yes.
Buy land. It's the only thing that lasts. And it is the only thing that lasts.
Yeah. We don't build any more land, right? And I was reading about it. Bill Gates is now pretty much the largest farm owner in US, right? He's just buying land and farm all over the US. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So let's talk about because one thing I always wondered, the tax side, right? So on the buy and hold real estate, I always know that I'm able to get depreciation. So most of the time I don't pay any upfront taxes till I sell. So what are the tax implications on this kind of land deals?
Right. So the taxes stink because land lasts forever. You can't depreciate it. So if you are in a position where you want to build tax-free or tax-deferred wealth, you can use a vehicle
Yeah.
called a self-directed
Yeah,
IRA
Roth IRA or any. Yeah.
or a qualified retirement plan that gives you check writing privileges.
Yeah.
And then you can build your wealth tax-free or tax deferred, getting 300 to 1,000% returns on your money.
Got it. But if I want to do it in my personal account, then I got to pay the tax every time I
Then
flip
you've
the
got to
land,
pay
right?
ordinary income tax. Correct.
Okay, got it. So let's talk about how can one get started in land investing. If I did take your course a little bit, so I remember, but I want to talk about it for my listeners that if I want to get started.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to learn anything is by doing it. And if you can follow someone who's already done it thousands of times, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So
Right.
mentorship, I think, is super important. But if you're like me, I want to dip my toe in the water before I invest money in education.
Yes.
So I have a free course that teaches people how to double their money 30 days or less. And if they like doing it, then I think they'll invest in the full course. So if they go to the landgeek.com/quick deals, they can dip their toe in the water and see if this model resonates with them.
So where do they get started? So let's say if I want to buy a land, are there any particular states you recommend? And what's usually the process like? If you can just
Right.
dumb it down for us.
I mean, let's face it. Nobody wakes up, thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Minnesota today.
Right.
Unless you live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we're going to focus on the Sunshine States in the Southwest, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, okay. Nevada, Arizona, California, a little bit Oregon, Washington, Florida, right? These are fast growing states.
Oh, yes.
States.
Can't go wrong.
So we're going to start there. And then we're going to go to a website called NACO.org, which lists out all 3,007 US counties. And then you'll start where I am. So you want to go to like a landmodo.com or landandfarm.com, see where the other land investors are investing. So it's kind of like if you go out fishing, right? And there's a big lake and you see all the boats are catching a fish on that area. And there's two boats not catching any fish in the opposite area. Where would you go?
Where everyone is catching the fish.
Where there's a market where everybody's catching fish.
You got to make sure, you have liquidity, right? On both sides. It's like trading.
Exactly. So how big's the liquidity pool? Right.
That's pretty cool. So once you pick the land and then you send out yellow cards, letters?
I actually send out an offer letter.
Oh, offer letter itself, right away.
Right. Because my whole philosophy is I can always make more money. I can't get more time.
Yes.
So 90% of this business is automated with software and inexpensive virtual assistants. So I don't want to be the negotiating business. So I'll send actual offers, because if I just send out a blind offer saying I want to buy your land, they'll say I want to sell my land. And now we're in a negotiation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In the house world, that's what you see. But correct. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. You don't want to negotiate for land when you're trying to buy it for, pennies on the dollar.
Exactly.
No, that's pretty cool. So once the offer is accepted, let's say, you said 3 to 5% of them accept the offer.
3 to 5%, right?
Okay, so you got to pretty much, as you said, automate this thing. You can't just try to do this on your own. Yeah, pretty automate, and I think that's where your course also comes into picture. I remember that, but automate the looking up on the county as well, and then automating the entire sending the letter out. Mm-hmm. And what happens after that? Once you have sent the letter out and let's say they accept it. So how does that work?
So once they accept it, then you have to go through due diligence and you have a property report, and you can either outsource that, which is what I do, or you can just follow the steps to check it yourself.
I see. So once the due diligence is done, then you work with the title company?
And then you work with the title company and they can prepare the deed, and then you own the property and then you start marketing it.
Got it. So then usually your goal is to generate passive income instead of just trying to flip it. But do you see that, which one do you see happen more frequently? Do people want to buy it outright, or do they want to pay monthly installment?
Well, they want to pay in installments because they want to keep their cash, right? In the same way that leasing a car or borrowing money for a car is way more popular than people paying cash for a car, right? So everyone can pretty much afford, if you have a job, can afford a car payment, but very few people can afford to pay cash for a car. So we have an expanded buyer pool where we do owner financing.
Got it. Okay. No, that's pretty cool. So of course you dumb it down for us, so it looks pretty easy. What are some of the gotchas of investing in land?
So, we make our money on the buy.
Okay.
And if you overpay, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So if you don't know your numbers, if you can't divide by 4 or won't divide by 4, or you won't look up the comparable sales and divide by 4, that's a big gotcha. That's the first one.
Okay.
The second big newbie mistake I see people making is stopping their deal flow. So they buy a piece of property and then they stop their mailing and then they wait to sell that property. Then it sells and they're like, I'm out of inventory. So you don't want to be a chicken company without any chicken.
Yeah, because this is more transactional, right? Because you got to continue to generate the deal.
Right. I mean, it's not, So, I mean, this is about passive income.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I flipped one house or I landlorded one house and I generated $1,500 a month in rent,
right.
Well, that's really nice.
Yeah.
But that doesn't move the needle. I need $20,000 a month in passive income to move the needle. So you have to keep that machine going.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So it's not, this is where it differs a little bit from buy and hold, that let's say if I buy 10 house, I'm done. If I'm going to keep it for 30 years, you got to be involved in this. So that makes sense. Because a lot of time you're like, exactly what you said, right? Oh, till I sell this deal, I don't want to put any more money because I got money tied into this one deal. And then once it's done, you don't have anything.
Exactly.
That makes sense. What have been your best and worst deals?
So my best deal was when I first started out, I bought a couple thousand acres of land from a public company that only was interested in the water rights. They did not want the actual land. So I started buying sections of land. They had bought it from Morgan Stanley, and Morgan Stanley had bought it from the railroad. So it was this big deal.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
So I had come in with an investment banking background, so I knew how to negotiate this deal. So I negotiated this huge deal, and it was the first time I went like $1 million into debt. But I made $5 million on that deal.
That's crazy.
That was a really good first deal.
Yeah.
Or first big deal.
Yeah.
My worst deal was in an area of Pennsylvania called Treasure Lake. And it's 2006. And I go in there, they got all these lots, and it's a property owners association. It's like that $1 million homes in there. It's gated. It's beautiful. 2 PGA rated golf courses, 3 lakes, and all these lots. So I go in there and I negotiate a bulk deal, and they all owed back taxes and POA fees, liens. I got all of it wiped out from the county, but I had to negotiate for 2 years. So I get all these lots, and I said, look, well, I own the lots, no taxes, no POA fees. And they agreed. And then I started selling them. I made about $100,000. And then guess what happens? It's 2008.
Yes. Yeah. Everything.
The market turns on me. I can't give them away. Nobody wants the fees or the taxes associated with these lots if they weren't going to build. And so I had to give back the property. It was the first time I ever, fulfill a promise that I made. And when I factored in my time again, I didn't make $100,000. I broke even because I had to keep flying back and forth negotiating for years.
Oh, that makes sense. So what did you learn from that deal?
Never to buy in a property owners association again.
Yes.
Too much of a headache.
Too much. Yeah. And then you're only allowed to do certain types of build or whatnot, right? Everyone has to follow their standards. So that makes sense. So, and what mistakes have you made with your real estate investing overall? If you have
I've made $1 million mistakes. I mean, I'd say the biggest mistake I made was not treating it like a business in the beginning and flipping for cash. So I'm flipping for cash and making cash, paying taxes, flipping for cash, making taxes, not building any real wealth. I mean, it felt good.
Yeah,
but I had to start all over again.
It's like wholesaling, basically, right? It feels good, but then you
so huge mistake. I didn't have a mentor. And then when I got a mentor and I told him what I was doing, he's like, don't call yourself an entrepreneur. It's like, you're insulting me. He's like, if you die tomorrow, what happens to your so-called land business?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I guess you're right. So I started building processes, systems, and automating so I could get myself out of it.
That's great. So, and we discussed about this before the podcast that you and I also invest in cryptos, of course, and everything is at all-time high. Real estate, from land to cryptos to stock. What do you see in the near future for land and real estate?
I mean, we're due for a bear market.
Yeah.
So let's have one. I can't wait.
I can't wait.
It's a 10-year, supposed to be a 10-year real estate cycle.
More than 10 years. Yeah. It's been
right. We're 12 years in. We're really due. And so I would say that we're due. Now, when that happens, I don't know.
No.
So I'm telling all my clients and my community, use the Profit First System by Mike Michalowicz.
Yes, so that's a great book.
Save some money for the inevitable dip.
Yeah.
And we're due. So I don't know when,
Yeah.
But, when there's euphoria out there, then that's when okay, it's about to happen.
Yeah, when government stops printing money and raises the interest rate, it will happen. So we are hanging by a thread, but it's
right. And the government can't raise interest rates because they have so much debt. They're
exactly.
Bankrupt
They'll
themselves.
be bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that's great.
The only way out of this, there's only two ways out. You either have a defaulted state, right? And we just become one of those countries that can't pay their debt, or we reset the long-term debt cycle like we did in World War II, and everyone starts fresh.
Yes.
That's the only way out of this mess.
Yeah. Right now, you can't just continue to print money to get out of it. It's
right.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Right.
That's great. So I have one last question before we take a quick break. What are the lessons you learned and how have you applied them in your business?
I mean, the biggest lesson I think I've learned is, I would say it comes back to meditation, right? Everything changes, which we all know. So don't get too high when you close a deal. Don't get too low if you're sitting on a piece of property and things aren't going your way, right? So just focus on the things you can control.
Yeah.
And that's all you can really do. And just be present with it and be joyful with it. What good is it struggling, going up that mountain and not enjoying the climb? You get to the top and you're miserable.
Yeah.
Right? Was it worth it?
No.
So I would say enjoy the journey of it.
Yeah. No, this is what I tell all my friends as well. Enjoy the journey. I always set a goal, but in the meantime, you got to enjoy the journey, right? So I climbed the tallest mountain in contiguous US in July, Mount Whitney, and I was miserable for half of the journey. But once while I was reaching the top, I'm like, okay, I'm almost there. I got to enjoy. I was struggling, and I just made it better for me the entire journey. So yeah.
And also, to think that you're going to be happy when you get to the top of that mountain, it's two different skill sets. The skill sets to be successful and the skill sets to be happy have nothing to do with each other.
Nope.
Right?
I agree.
But the illusion is that, when I get this, then I'll be.
I'm done. I'm good.
Right. It's not. I can tell you that doesn't work.
No, this is great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing all the golden nuggets. Let's take a quick break.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, WEALTH, matters, MATRS.com.
Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Mark Podolsky here. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him, learned a lot already. Mark, are you ready for fire round?
Alpesh, bring it.
Yeah, let's
bring the heat. Bring the Vindaloo.
Yeah. We hit Vindaloo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy after this pandemic is over, if it's ever going to get over?
No, my strategy is solid. And we talked about this before the podcast. I want scarce assets, and they're not making any more land. They're not making any more Bitcoin.
Right. Oh, that's great. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
Yeah, my favorite real estate book is going to be The One Thing by Gary Keller.
That's
a second is going to be Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That's like everyone.
Cash Flow Quadrant. Yeah.
Yeah, a Cash Flow Quadrant is the book I love because, it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's just to open your mind, but just to see how it will work. It's the Cash Flow Quadrant, right?
Exactly.
It's a good. And today you threw out a lot of websites. So, but I got to repeat the question. Any tool or website you recommend or you cannot live without?
Well, for my business, I can't live without lgpass.com or geekpay.io. LGPass automates the front end. Geekpay.io automates the back end of note management.
Okay.
But in general, if I could only pick one website that I would live in every single day, it's Zapier.
Zapier, the CRM?
Well, Zapier's not a CRM. It actually connects two sites to automate.
Yes.
There's so many things you can do in that.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Any advice for beginner investors?
Yeah. Forget about the timeline, right? On a long enough timeline, you will get paid. So I love that Zig Ziglar quote. If you'll do for the next 3 to 5 years what other people won't do, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what other people can't do. So have grit and go in there and just abandon the timeline and just put your head down, focus, wake up in 3 to 5 years and look what you built.
That's great. How do you give back
So I have a few philanthropies I love. The first one's my mentor's ball2all.org. He's got indestructible soccer balls for $10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He kind of stole my idea, honestly. Like I thought we could solve a lot of problems by dropping Xboxes. Turns out that that's not really practical. So soccer balls keep a lot of kids out of trouble. The second one is effectivealtruism.org. So Effective Altruism is basically a fund that looks at the best philanthropic organizations that give you the biggest bang for your buck to relieve suffering in the world. It turns out for like a little bit of money, a mosquito net saves a child.
From malaria, yeah.
From malaria. And you don't even think about that.
Right.
But I love this Peter Singer idea that if you walked by a pond, like a shallow pond, and saw a drowning child, what would you do? Well, everyone says save the child.
Right. Same.
Yet, literally, there are drowning children every day. We're just not walking by that pond.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's great. Thank you for doing that. How can my listeners reach out to you?
The landgeek.com is the best place to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. I thoroughly enjoyed, as I said, I was always following you. So I couldn't wait to release this episode.
Thanks, Alpesh. It's great meeting you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing.